I'm building a LEGO fantasy army. Orcs, elves, dwarves, Dragonborn, I want them all. But I only have $1,000 to spend. Let's build an army. The first course of action is to go to Bricklink and make a ton of orders. Then LEGO just released a sweet new D&D CMF minifig series at $5 each, so I'm gonna order 24 of those for a grand total of 120 bucks. While we wait for those orders to arrive, I do have some figs that I'll exclude from the $1,000 limit to get this army started. First up, we have 9 King's Guard, hailing from the Kingdom of Lorenzia. Clothed in black falcon armor, a majestic red cape flowing in their trail, armed with a large claymore. These are some of the most skilled warriors in all of the land. To lead these men is Captain Vincis Lane. Captain Lane, with the same armament as the rest of the guard, is a warrior with immense honor, serving as the king's right hand and mentor, as he was the king's father's most trusted friend in life. Then we have one from a very different walk of life, a fierce Dragonborn warrior by the name of Calxar Orlador. Calxar has been a mercenary for most of his life, serving only coin, but he holds his allegiance to the Dragonborn Emperor above all else. If his people go to war, he will follow and fight till the bitter end. In the orders I made, I do have a sword coming for Calxar. We don't want a little defenseless Dragonborn running around, but they'll be here in about a week. I'll see you then. My orders are finally here, including the D&D figs straight from LEGO. Now, I'm going for 3 categories. I'll have a good category, an evil category, and a neutral category. This has most of my good minifigs. Let's start building them. We'll start with the Elven army from the great Elven Kingdom, Alsari. Of course, you can't have elves without bows and arrows, so first up are the Elven archers. To build these figs, I'll be using indoor Luke Skywalker's legs paired with a nice olive green torso that has dual molded arms. They get a dark blue cape and of course a quiver, some random minifig heads that I found for cheap, and a dark blue hood. The last step is to replace his yellow hands with dark red hands, and finally he gets his brick-built bow. This fig costs $13.74, and I got 5, bringing the grand total to $68.70. Of course, our Elven archers need some frontline protection, so these next figs I'm going to be basing off of the Elven Warriors from Lord of the Rings. Behold, the Blades of Alsari, the heavily armored frontline unit that will gladly lay down their immortal lives to vanquish the evil that plagues this realm. For the legs and torsos of these figs, I used the Atlantean armor from the Aquaman sets. Then, just like the archers, they have a dark blue cape, except this one is a little bit of a different shape, just to kind of give a different kind of effect. They have golden shoulder armor, and then on top they have a Spartan helmet, which is the closest helmet I can find to an elven-looking helmet. I think it does get the job done pretty well. And then finally, to cement these figs as Elven Warriors, they have long hilt elven swords. Each of these figs cost me $19.95, and just like with the archers, I got 5 of them, bringing my total to $99.75. Now that we have a standing elven army, we need some elven leadership. Behold, Aera Valinor, niece to the King of Alsari, and captain to its military forces. Her father was slain in a war against forces of evil nearly a millennia ago, and since that day, she has sworn to dismantle all who would seek to harm her people. Aera's legs and torso are from Wonder Woman, which I think matches the swordsman behind her perfectly. Her hair's from Elrond, which I chose this because it has a crown and kinda gives her a little bit of status. Just like all the other elves so far, she has a blue cape, and then she's armed with 2 elven blades. Her overall cost comes in at $25.39. Of course, we'll need an Elven King. Unfortunately, I forgot to order him some matching legs. I don't know if I'll stick with this red cape he has, but we'll order that later in the video. Moving on to one of my favorite factions, the Dwarves. These are the dwarves from the Kingdom of Melfaldor in the Tishdora Mountains. While short in stature, these dwarves have quite a knack for striking down orcs, and if tensions arise, they're not opposed to crossing blades with the elves either. I gave these dwarves dual molded black and brown medium legs. Most of them have a unique weapon, 2 of them have the same spear, each has a unique beard. They all have a short orange cape, they have golden shields, which is a combination of 2 pieces, this front shield piece, and then behind I added a brown handle. And finally, they all have Gimli's helmet from the older version of Gimli. The total of all 5 of these Dwarven Warriors was 95-12. Here is the king's daughter, Elcorin Earthcloak, a legendary leader amongst her people as she has led them to victory after victory over powerful foes, including a dragon. She perhaps is the balance to her father, who like many dwarves, greed knows no bound. She's armed with 2 axes, an armored skirt that's different than the ones that the other Dwarven Warriors have. Unfortunately, it is a little longer than the medium-sized legs, but it does get the job done. Elcorin comes in as one of the cheapest figures so far at $10.51. And finally, we have the King of Tishtora, King Kuzak. Kuzak, who is 309 years old, may seek gold above pretty much everything else, and he does have quite the mountain of gold, but none can say he is not a good leader. A master strategist, like most dwarves, Kuzak has been a warrior for his entire life. When he was 105, he actually led a revolution against his own father, who was leading the dwarves into their own destruction. Vastly outnumbered, Kuzak led his forces and defeated his father, exiling him into the wilderness, then being anointed the new king of Tishtora. I gave him the same legs as the rest of his warriors. His torso is from the CMF Series 5 Evil Dwarf, except I changed the hands to red. His cape is actually the same as the rest of the dwarves as well, other than I flipped it to the black side instead of the orange side. The most expensive part of this figure was certainly his helmet, which comes from Dane in one of the Hobbit sets. In all honesty, I built his axe from some scrap pieces I had. A lot of them were extra pieces that the vendors threw into my orders, and I put this together. I'm not exactly sure if I like it, but I kinda do, so I'll keep it for now. I might change it in the future. The total for Kuzak was $36.17, and pretty much exactly half of that was the helmet. What would our forces of good be without an archmage, master of all forms of magic? At 9,000 years old, he is perhaps the wisest being in all of the realm. All mages throughout the land look to him for answers. This is the most simple figure so far. His legs, torso, cape, and head are all from Moon Knight. Then I just gave him a long, dark tan hairpiece. I built a simple magic-looking staff for him. I actually ran into a mishap where this dark bluish gray transitional stud piece is. I had a gold lightsaber piece that I was playing with, and it broke, unfortunately, and I didn't have another one to replace it on this staff with, so I just had to improvise and add a dark bluish gray stud. I don't think it looks bad though, so I'll probably just stick with it. This is officially the cheapest figure out of the lineup so far at $9.75. Can't forget about Kalxar's sword, which cost $120. I think this curvy blade suits him well. Finally, for the moment I've been waiting for, it's time to open up the CMF minifigs and see what we got. Alright, let's see what we got in this 24 fig lineup. First, our 2 halfling druids, a tiefling sorcerer, Sass Tam, a vampire dude who I forgot his name, he looks like Dracula, 3 Dragonborn paladins, which are the ones I wanted the most, so I'm pretty pumped to have a few of those guys, 3 Githyanki warlocks, 2 elf bards, 3 mind flayers, 2 dwarf barbarians, 3 Lady of Pains, which I believe I'll have a pretty interesting use for in the lore, and then 3 Arakra rangers, or like I like to call them, bird dudes. The only CMF fig we didn't get is Tasha the Witch Queen, which is a little unfortunate, but not too big of a deal. I'm pretty happy with the lineup we have here. I'll wait till the end of the video till we find out what allegiances they have to what sides, or if they're neutral, or something along those lines. And then I'll also see if there's room in the budget to outfit them with different items than they have now. But it's time to make another LEGO order for mostly our forces of evil. The first things I want to make sure I order this time are the pieces to make the King of Lorenzia and the pieces to finish the Elven King of Alsari. Then it's time for orcs, the undead beings that will wage war upon the land. The orders are in. I'll see you when they get here. The orders have arrived. Let's see who's here to join the party. Backtracking to the Elven King, I got him the matching legs. The legs and torso are actually from some superhero set, I believe, and then I switched the red cape for a purple cape. I think the purple cape looks way better. This is King Amar, an abrasive isolationist, convincing him to join any sort of coalition force against the forces that wish to conquer the land will not be easy. He is 9,000 years old and has seen countless wars, but he believes that the elves can defend themselves from any foe without the help of anyone else. Amar was a lot cheaper than I thought he would be. His total comes in at $14.39. Now, perhaps one of the figs I'm most excited for, Arnis, King of Lorenzia, son of Helgrim. When he was a mere 10 years old, his kingdom was conquered. He watched as his father fell in the final battle after being betrayed. His uncle Hanir grabbed him on horseback and they rode for miles and miles into the forest, where they would live in exile for 10 years. Hanir trained Arnis for those 10 years to be the warrior that his people would eventually need him to be. When he was 20, Arnis and Hanir were attacked by bandits. They worked together, striking them from the realm of existence. But when just a few were left, the leader of the bandits planted his blade into Hanir's chest. In his rage, Arnis struck down all of the remaining bandits and rushed to his uncle's side. In his dying breath, Hanir told Arnis now is the time for him to return to Lorenzia, free his people from those who have enslaved them, and reclaim his place as the rightful king of Lorenzia. So Arnis rode out to village after village, gathering support, proving himself as the rightful heir to his father's throne. He gathered peasants, farmers, old warriors that were in his father's army. After most villages in Lorenzia were freed from their shackles, they gathered their forces together and struck at the capital, retaking it and claiming his spot as the king of Lorenzia. Arnis's legs are from Ninjago, his torso is one of Thor's torsos. I doubled up his capes, between the outer one being a dark red cape and the inner one as a regular red cape, because there's a small portion of a red cape on Thor's torso. I think it actually looks really good doubled up this way. His head is Aragorn's head, and then his crown and hair are from Thorin Oakenshield. His sword is Convergence, the king's blade that has been in his family for over a millennia. Arnis comes at the whopping price tag of $41.97, with the Thorin hairpiece being over $23 of that. It's time to start building our forces of evil. We will start with the orcs. Try something a little different with the orcs. I want to build several different packs of them. I don't want to just build a whole bunch that look the same, so I'll be building several tribes with one leader and 2 of their soldiers. Up first, the Khazard Gek, a ferocious, bloodthirsty tribe that eats one thing and one thing only: man flesh. Just the sheer sound of their name strikes fear into the hearts of all men. Local villages stand no chance to their ravenous rage. The legs for these figures are from Ninjago, then the torso and head are from Nexo Knights. I gave them this dark tan shoulder armor and this tattered gray cape, which I think fits these figures perfectly. Then these silver helmets are from Atlantean soldiers and Aquaman. These guys come in at $18.44 each and $36.88 in total. This is Erko Maul, the leader of the Khazard Gek. Long thought to be dead, slain by King Arnis's father Helgrim long ago, Erko Maul has made his return. A savage like no other, many of the best blades from dwarves, men, elves, Dragonborn have fallen to this fiend. The only thing that flows through his veins is a lust for blood. His forces have grown to numbers unimaginable. Before, he was only a threat to villages and trade routes. Now, capital cities must fear his name. Just like his warriors, Erko Maul's legs, torso, and head are all from Nexo Knights. His helmet is just the gold version of the Atlantean warriors from Aquaman, and then I gave him a black cape. Overall, Erko Maul came in really cheap at $8.60. The next tribe is the Esar Caz. The tankiest of all tribes, they excel in the art of siege warfare. Heavily armored, skin as hardened as steel, pray that your city does not encounter the wrath of the Esar Caz. It is not uncommon for them to war with the Khazard Gek, as their leaders are great rivals. The legs for these figures is from the Legends of Chima, which I actually made a mistake ordering because they're a different shade of green as the head. It doesn't bother me as much as I thought it would, so I'm just gonna roll with it. Now, both of these figs actually have different pieces of armor, but they're both from Man of Steel. The heads are the troll heads from LEGO Fantasy Era, which growing up, that was one of my favorite themes. I would love a theme revival there. Their swords are from the Uruk-hai in Lord of the Rings, and then their ponytails are from Monkey Kid. Together, these figs cost $24.92. The leader of the Esar Caz, slayer of men, conqueror of cities, Largok Bolgan, wielding his mighty warhammer, crushing the bones of all that cross his path. The victims that are lucky may find their head mounted upon his back. A loyal servant to the Dark Lord, whatever city is commanded to fall, he will carry out the task. Long-standing rival to Erko Maul, though both servants of the Dark Lord, when commanded to join forces, it may be the end for all mortals that dwell in the land. His legs are slightly different, but just like his warriors, they are from Legends of Chima. The armor is from Ninjago. The head is also a troll head from LEGO Fantasy Era, but it's a little bit different than the others. It's missing an eye for one. I think this looks really good as the leader. The back of the armor had a stud, so I attached a few pieces to hold up two heads. I think it looks really good and adds a ton to this figure. Then I also brick built this Warhammer, which I'm pretty happy with how it turned out. Largok Bolgan comes in at $10.86. Next up are the trolls, utilized by all orc tribes for the siege of large cities, but most commonly seen with the Esar Caz. The green troll came in at $50.78, while the dark tan troll came at $30.96, and the total between the two was $81.74. Our next group are the Loot Goblins. With no individualized leader, they pretty much conform to the orders of every other orc clan, where they're pretty much only used as cannon fodder for the rest of the orcs. While they can cause chaos in small towns and villages that have no standing army, any small group of mediocre soldiers can easily cut down large numbers of these Loot Goblins. These figs are super simple. They're just the CMF Series 13 goblins with no modifications from me. Each of them costs $13.49, bringing the total for the three to $40.47. These are the Red Dragon Warriors from the Kingdom of Uteria. Evil men, servants of the Dark Lord. This is the force that conquered Lorenzia and killed King Helgrim. Their king was slain by King Arnis when he retook Lorenzia. His second in command, General Vargif, took control of all of the Red Dragon forces. For the Red Dragon soldiers, all I did was swap the legs. The old ones were black with no printing. I swapped them to these printed legs from Ninjago. I gave them shoulder armor, and then I swapped out their yellow heads for these regular skin-toned heads. Then for General Vargif, the only thing I did was swap his head from the original yellow-colored head, and other than that, he's exactly how I ordered him. The cost for the two Dragon Knights together was $40.64. Then Vargif, along with his horse, cost $30.15. together, it all came to $70.79. And of course, there's the army of the undead, risen and controlled by an evil necromancer, with one goal: to destroy the living. The more they kill, the more their numbers swell. In total, I got 15 white skeletons and 3 black skeletons, and equipped them with various different armor and weapons. The total for the forces of the undead is $67.26. And the necromancer witch creating this undead army is Doritha the Death Whisperer. Doritha once was a regular peasant woman until one day she found herself in the direct presence of the Dark Lord himself, something very few get to live to tell the tale about. He imbued his hatred, his dark powers upon her, tormenting her until she was a monster. She seeks to deliver the same pain that was given to her to other mortals. Though she despises the Dark Lord more than anything, she does not have a fraction of the power required to challenge him. So she is forced to live in servitude to him. The magic clothing base for Doritha is from Dreams. Her torso is from Black Panther. Her head is a Banshee head from a CMF series I've never heard of, but it's Bandmates Series 1. And her hood is from Dreams. I gave her 2 black capes to wrap more around her. I think it looks way better than just one. And her weapon is a neon trans green sword, a blade made from her magic. In total, this figure came in at $10.28. Behold, the Dark Lord's right hand, his highest general, the one that leads in his absence, Drakkar Zidon. Besides the Dark Lord, perhaps this is the most evil, wickedest, vilest being in all of the land. With powers so great, not even the Archmage is a match. For Drakkar's torso and legs, I just used Luke Skywalker's from the Desert Skiff. The cape is from a Dementor from Harry Potter. The hood is from Ninjago, and his head is from an Iron Man 3 set. I gave him a super basic looking wooden staff, and then he has a magically bound longsword made out of fire. Drakkar's total cost comes in at $23.30. Now that we have the main base for my good and evil minifigs, excluding the CMF figs that we haven't given sides yet, now it's time to start our first neutral faction, the Dragonborn. Of course, first off, we have the 3 Dragonborn Paladin from the D&D CMF. These Dragonborn warriors hail from Climpiel Alithis, the capital city of the Dragonborn. The Dragonborn Paladin is the main military might of the Dragonborn people. The Paladins are numbered only in the hundreds, which is just a fraction of several of the other military mights in the land. What they lack in numbers, they make up for in their ferocity. These are not the warriors that you want to oppose you on the battlefield. In the past, they have fought against every faction. Their actions are unpredictable as to what side they will pick. The next Dragonborn soldiers are the Berserkers, the special forces of the Dragonborn military. Expert trackers, they carry out assassinations, executions, mutilations like no other. Wielding a weapon in either hand, bones on their chest, a lust for blood to bring harm to all. These are not just warriors, these are monsters. The legs for these figures comes from Lion Dance, a Chinese New Year's set. I use them because it kind of looks like the scales of the Dragonborn. I think it matches these figures pretty well. They have 2 different torsos. One has a C-3PO torso. I thought I ordered another gold torso, which would have worked well under the bone armor, just like the C-3PO torso, but apparently I didn't, so I had to use a different torso that I had in another order. I ordered a couple more of these gold Dragonborn Paladin heads because they were way cheaper than the other colors the Dragonborn heads come in, which is unfortunate. I would have liked some diversity there, but the others were just out of budget. I gave them dark tan spikes in their head, then they just have a tattered dark red cape. The total for these 2 figs is $31.54. The most powerful Dragonborn mage, always at the side of the Emperor, Mimpel Tazrin. At the age of 5, he was sent away to study under the Archmage and reach potentials never thought to be possible. When he returned 23 years later, he went around challenging every Dragonborn mage and wizard he could find. Defeating all of them with ease, those who would not yield died. Quickly, he caught the eye of the Emperor. The Emperor tested him, having him bring armies to their knees, attempting to find the limit to his power, but that limit was not found. So he was given the title High Mage, with not only authority over all Dragonborn magic, but also the second highest position in the Dragonborn military, right under the Emperor. The legs and torso for Mimpel are from the vampire in this D&D CMF series, other than I switched the hands to gold. I gave him red shoulder armor, he also gets a gold Dragonborn head, and then his spikes are black. He has a medium violet cape, which I didn't even know was a color. It's used and kind of frayed, but it actually adds a little to the figure, I think. I made a mistake with the Dragonborn Berserker's cost. I should have only included 2 Dragonborn heads, but instead I included 4. One of those extra Dragonborn heads was for this figure. So the total for this figure is $15.17, minus that extra head is $12.48. Here is the Emperor of the Dragonborn, Nelxar Zorxos. A cruel leader, he has forged his empire to a place where it truly is survival of the fittest. His philosophy is if you cannot hold your own in battle, if you cannot oppress your victims, then you are a waste of space. You will either be executed or live your days as a slave. He has had hundreds of challengers, he accepts all trials by combat, but not one has left him with so much as a scratch. He is a warrior of another caliber. He has Emperor Palpatine's dress piece, the torso is from Legends of Chima, the gold Cobra shoulder armor is from Ninjago. Once again, this figure also has a golden Dragonborn head. He has silver spikes, his cape is from CMF Series 25, the Vampire Knight, and he has this dragon sword from Ninjago, which I think is really fitting for this figure. The total cost for this figure is $20.91, but just like with Mimpel, the cost of the head has already been included, so that brings us to $18.22. And of course, we can't forget about Kalxar Orlador, the mercenary from the beginning of the video, so I'll place him right here next to his people. This is Aera, the daughter of King Amar. After a dispute with her father over how the elves should be led, she was exiled from all elven lands. Her father has gone so far to set bounties on her head. The truth is that he fears her. He fears she will return, gather support, and overthrow him and become the new leader of the elven people. Currently, Aera is working as a mercenary for hire, taking gold wherever she can get it. She is not only skilled with her blade, but also very powerful in magic. Aera's legs and torso are from Tasha the Witch Queen from the D&D CMF series, the only figure I didn't get out of my 25 pulls actually. She has purple shoulder armor, her hairpiece is from one of the mini dolls from the Elves series, and then she also has a purple cape. And of course, can't forget her horse, Madoka. Aera's cost is $22.27. Now finally, it's time to determine the allegiances of the D&D CMF figs. First things first, the Mind Flayers I don't think really have a place in my lore, so they will not be a part of any army. The Halfling Druids are neutral, they are protectors of the forest. They summon these sprites, which are the Lady of Pain minifigs, to help defend and kill anyone that trespasses upon these lands. The Arakara Rangers will be joining the fight alongside the Archmage to fight the forces of evil. The Dwarf Barbarians serve themselves as they go raiding and pillaging, taking all sorts of treasure. The Githyanki also pick no side, but they are willing to war with anybody. The Vampire also serves himself as he will take blood from any unsuspecting soul. The Tiefling Sorcerer's name is Marza. She serves at the Archmage's side as his apprentice. The Zastam minifig is being renamed to Alzu Soren, a dark sorcerer serving the Dark Lord. The two elf bards are twins, Nacella and Nacelle. They bring joy to the elven people through music. Now our armies are finally complete with $7.19 to spare. What's your favorite faction that we've created, and what's your favorite minifigure? If I had to create a mock, which faction would you want me to create a mock for? I hope you enjoyed. If you did, make sure to like and subscribe. It'd mean the world, and I will see you next time.
Glory in our chains, victory is our shout. Walls of the mountain rise underneath the ancient skies.